Hello, dear friends, and welcome to Coffee English Bedtime Story Practice. Tonight, I want to take you on a very special journey. This is a gentle story designed to help you relax, practice your English listening skills, and drift peacefully into sleep. Before we begin, let me remind you that this is your safe space for learning. If you don't understand every word, that's perfectly okay. Just let the rhythm of the English language wash over you like gentle waves. Allow yourself to relax, breathe deeply, and simply enjoy this moment of peace. Tonight, we're going to travel together to distant lands and discover something beautiful about the human heart. So close your eyes, get comfortable, and let's begin our story about an explorer who conquered the world, but had to learn the most important lesson of all. Many years ago, when the world was still full of secrets and unknown places, there lived a man named Captain Alexander Storm. He was not born with this big, important name. As a small boy, he was simply Alex, a child with no parents and no family to take care of him. Alex grew up on the busy streets of a port city by the sea. Every day, he watched beautiful ships sail away to far places. The ship captains wore fine clothes, and everyone showed them respect. Young Alex would sit by the water for hours, dreaming of the day when he too could sail across the oceans and find new places. But dreams alone do not make explorers. Alex worked harder than any other boy his age. He learned to read maps by candlelight in cold, empty buildings. He studied the stars when others were sleeping. He practiced using sailing tools that sailors had thrown away. Every time someone said no to him made him stronger. Every closed door made him want to succeed even more. By the time Alex turned 25, he had become Captain Alexander Storm, the most respected ship captain in all the world. His ships had crossed every ocean. His maps had opened new trade ways that brought money to whole countries. He had found islands full of gold, lands filled with beautiful stones, and places that no European had ever seen before. People called him the master of the 7 seas. Kings invited him to their palaces. Scholars wrote books about his adventures. Children played games, pretending to be the great Captain Storm. He had everything that the small orphan boy had ever dreamed of having. But late at night, when the celebrations ended and the crowds went home, Alexander felt an emptiness inside his chest that no treasure could fill. He had conquered lands across the Atlantic, Pacific, and Indian Oceans. He had sailed through the Mediterranean Sea and around the dangerous waters of Cape Horn. Yet something was missing, something important that he could not name or understand. So he continued to explore. He pushed his ships further into uncharted waters. He demanded more from his crew. He searched for bigger discoveries and greater adventures. But the emptiness only grew larger. One autumn morning, after sailing for months through unexplored waters in the South Pacific, Alexander's ship encountered the most terrible storm of his career. The waves were as tall as mountains. The wind screamed like angry spirits. For 3 days and 3 nights, his ship fought against the fury of the ocean. When the storm finally ended, Alexander found himself washed ashore on a small island that appeared on none of his maps. His ship was broken. His crew was scattered. His instruments were lost. For the first time in his adult life, the great Captain Storm was completely alone and helpless. The island was unlike anything he had ever seen. The sand was pure white, softer than silk. The water around the shore was so clear that he could see colorful fish swimming 30 feet below the surface. Palm trees swayed gently in the warm breeze, and flowers of every imaginable color created a natural carpet across the land. But what surprised Alexander most was the sound of human voices. As he walked inland, he discovered a small village where people lived in simple huts made of bamboo and leaves. These were not the kind of people he usually encountered on his expeditions. They were not afraid of him. They did not bow down or offer him gold or precious stones. Instead, they welcomed him with genuine smiles and invited him to share their simple meal of fish and tropical fruits. The villagers spoke a language he had never heard before, but somehow their meaning was clear. They were curious about his torn uniform and his obvious distress, but they asked no demanding questions. They gave him clean clothes, fresh water, and a place to rest without expecting anything in return. For several days, Alexander waited for rescue ships that never came. Slowly, he began to observe the daily life of these island people. They woke up with the sunrise and worked together to catch fish, gather fruits, and maintain their homes. In the evenings, they sat together under the stars, sharing stories and laughing like family members who genuinely enjoyed each other's company. What amazed Alexander was their complete contentment. These people owned almost nothing by his standards, yet they seemed happier than anyone he had ever met. They had no maps of distant lands, no ships to carry them to foreign shores, no weapons to conquer new territories. But they had something that all his adventures had never given him: peace. One evening, an elderly man approached Alexander as he sat alone on the beach, staring out at the endless ocean. This man was clearly the village elder. His hair was white as ocean foam, and his eyes held the wisdom of someone who had lived many lifetimes. He spoke slowly in accented English, as if he had been waiting years for this conversation. "You are the famous Captain Storm," the old man said with a gentle smile. Your name has reached even our remote island through the stories of passing traders. Alexander was surprised. You know who I am. I know who you think you are, the elder replied mysteriously. But do you know who you really are? This question confused the great explorer. I am Captain Alexander Storm. I have discovered more new lands than any man alive. I have sailed every ocean and conquered territories that span 3 continents. The elder nodded thoughtfully. Yes, you have traveled very far from home. But tell me, Captain, where exactly is your home? Alexander opened his mouth to answer, but no words came out. Where was his home? He had apartments in London, houses in Spain, and properties in several port cities. But none of these places had ever felt like home. He had been moving constantly for so many years that he had forgotten what home actually meant. I see the confusion in your eyes, the elder said kindly. You have spent your entire adult life running toward new horizons, but you never stopped to ask yourself what you were running from. That night, Alexander could not sleep. The old man's words echoed in his mind like waves against the shore. What was he running from? Why had he spent 20 years pushing himself to travel further and discover more when nothing he found ever satisfied the hunger in his heart? The next morning, the elder invited Alexander to walk with him to the highest point on the island. From this hill, they could see the entire village below and the vast ocean stretching endlessly in all directions. The view was breathtakingly beautiful, but it also made Alexander feel incredibly small. Tell me about the boy you used to be, the elder said as they sat together under a large tree that provided shade from the tropical sun. Alexander had not spoken about his childhood in many years. Slowly, hesitantly, he began to share memories that he had buried deep inside his heart. He told the elder about the cold nights when he had no place to sleep. He described the hunger that made his stomach ache for days. He remembered the loneliness of watching other children play with their families while he stood alone at the edge of the playground. I promised myself that I would become someone important, Alexander said quietly. I wanted to be so successful that no one would ever be able to ignore me or reject me again. And have you become that person? The elder asked. Yes, Alexander answered quickly. Everyone knows my name. Kings respect me. People celebrate my achievements. But do you feel loved? The elder asked with infinite gentleness. This simple question broke something open inside Alexander's chest. Tears began to flow down his face, tears that he had been holding back for decades. No, he did not feel loved. He felt admired, respected, even feared, but not loved. All his fame and success had brought him everything except the one thing he had always wanted most: to belong somewhere and to someone. You have been searching for home in all the wrong places, the elder said softly. Home is not a location that you can discover with maps and ships. Home is not a territory that you can conquer with strength and determination. Home is a feeling of peace that comes from accepting yourself exactly as you are. Over the following days, the elder taught Alexander lessons that no university or royal court had ever offered. He showed him that true strength comes not from controlling others, but from understanding yourself. He explained that the most important discoveries happen not when you find new lands, but when you find new truths about your own heart. You have been trying to earn love through achievement, the elder explained. But love cannot be earned. It can only be received by someone who believes they are worthy of receiving it. Alexander began to understand that the small orphan boy inside him had never felt worthy of love. That boy had decided to become someone so impressive that love would be forced upon him. But after 20 years of impressive achievements, the boy was still waiting, still hungry, still afraid of being abandoned. "What should I do?" Alexander asked. "How can I find the home I have been searching for?" The elder smiled with the warmth of a grandfather. "You must stop running away from the boy you used to be and start taking care of him. You must tell him that he was always worthy of love, even when he was small and powerless and alone."